From Courtside the Virtual Hardwood, it's the NLSC Podcast, a weekly show for basketball gamers and hardcore hoopheads. This is episode 544. I am Andrew in our forum, Andrew NLSC on X. Joining me, my co-host Derek, DP3 in the forum, and DP3G and DP384 on X. Derek, it's the calm before the storm, if you will. NBA 2K25 releases next week, but that's not all that's on our minds. So as always, please tip us off.
Absolutely. So first, we will feature a new segment called D's Dislikes, which will show its face periodically on episodes moving forward. This week's segment will include conversation around Anthony Edwards and his quote-unquote skill comments related to Michael Jordan's era, stat padding in the WNBA, keyboard warriors on social media, and scripted takes on social media from content creators. Second, a good amount of NBA 2K25 raw gameplay footage has been released. We will discuss our thoughts on that footage and how the basketball gaming community feels about it. Lastly, we had a fun session on NBA Live 2003 using the Timberwolves versus the CPU Spurs, and we will touch on that. So first, Andrew, Anthony Edwards stated the following: I didn't watch it back in the day, so I can't speak on it. They say it was tougher back then than it is now, but I don't think anybody had skill back then. Michael Jordan was the only one that really had skill. You know what I mean? So that's why when they saw Kobe Bryant, they were like, oh my God, but now everybody has skill. So basically, Andrew, I didn't watch it, so I can't speak on it, followed by nobody had skill back then. Imagine ignorantly insulting decades worth of hoopers in order to prop up yourself in today's game. Nothing positive comes from BS like this. So how ridiculous of a statement. It made me lose respect, a lot of respect, for Anthony Edwards. These kids do not know or respect history. And another example of that, Andrew, is when Mitchell Robinson, while playing in the NBA for the Knicks, stated that he didn't know who Hakeem Olajuwon was. How do you supposedly love the game, make the game your life, and have dreams of playing in the NBA, and not only have those dreams, but pursue them, and know so little about the history of the game, and also have the nerve to disrespect it?
It's absolutely ridiculous. I mean, we've talked about how we hate that attitude before, and to see it from current NBA players, you just didn't see that disrespect back in the day. And certainly from fans, you were considered ignorant and not an informed fan if you didn't know at least some history. Sure, you may not know all the obscure trivia, you may not know all the records off the top of your head, but ignorance of history wasn't celebrated or championed, as it seemingly is today. And these comments were so egregious that it got Magic Johnson, of all people, to break character, as somebody put it on X, to break character and say, well, I don't listen to anybody who's never won a championship at any level. And Magic is usually not that aggressive in his commentary. And he's come back.
He is the least combative. He is the least combative former player, I would say, or former legend. He never wants controversy.
Absolutely. And yet he hit back with that comment. And I think past generations are getting sick of that disrespect, except for those ones that are getting paid to shill and to push that narrative, like a Gilbert Arenas, for example. But it's getting to the point where, even if you wanted to argue today is better than it's ever been, whatever, to say that the past, that there was no skill, that it was completely horrible, that's just taking it to a whole new level of disrespect.
Yeah, and Edwards was also rightfully called out by Kevin Garnett.
Yes.
And there was a 7-minute video rant posted by ballislife.com where KG is just ripping into Anthony Edwards' comments. And one of the things that he stated was, I don't think half of these kids in the league could have been on an NBA team 20 years ago. So those are some pretty harsh words from KG, but rightfully it pissed off a lot of former players because KG is also from Jordan's era. He started his NBA career in 95, 96, right? And in KG's first 3 seasons, Michael Jordan was the NBA champion, him and the Chicago Bulls, right? And another former player and legend that's been trying to combat this ignorance and misinformation on social media for around a month now is Isaiah Thomas, 2-time champion Pistons, Isaiah Thomas. He's been talking about how, tough it was back then and how skilled the players were back then. And he even made comments related to players shooting more threes today, but being less comfortable in the mid-range and in the post and other areas of the basketball floor and whatnot. So it's been nice to see Isaiah Thomas, Kevin Garnett, and even Magic Johnson kind of speak up and be like, hey, wait a minute, you guys are wrong.
And that might be the first take of Isaiah Thomas's that I actually agree with in quite some time. He has been anti-Jordan before, obviously. That goes back to, well, the 80s and 90s, of course, but it is good to see him hitting back against that narrative. Skill has been a part of the game for decades. It didn't just start in the 80s and 90s. There were skilled players going right back to the beginning of professional basketball, obviously. And yes, certain skills did develop over time. The game did change. Oscar Robertson has talked about how assists have different criteria. He was talking about that in the 90s. That has continued to evolve over the years, or certainly change, if you will. And yeah, it's just a continuation of the whole plumbers and dentists rhetoric that has really just muddied the discourse, disrespected the past, pushed this current narrative. And the funny thing, the ironic thing about it all, Derek, is that it actually doesn't present a great argument for today, because it's saying that today's players are clearing a low bar. It's lowering the bar to prop up the now, and that's actually a weaker argument than saying the players have been great for years, they were so skilled, but today's players are even more skilled, and here's why. That is an argument that I would maybe be skeptical of, but I would certainly be more open to it. I think that would be a stronger argument rather than lowering the bar.
I think that it comes from a place of ignorance and a place of insecurity. I think players are insecure about today's game. Honestly, I think that they're doing whatever they possibly can to prop it up, and the media is doing the same thing. They're following suit, and they've been doing that for years now. So I think it comes from both of those places. About the assist change, like, what's considered assist and what is not. An assist used to be a pass that directly leads to a score. Now, which there's tons of footage on this with, Trae Young and LeBron and Doncic, et cetera, being credited for assists. Now it apparently is pass it to somebody and that person is allowed to do one or two moves, maybe a counter move, et cetera, and then score, and then you still get the assist, right? So it has never been more lenient.
Yeah.
Than it is today, as far as, tallying up assists. Part of Garnett's rant, too, he was talking about skill, and he states, that players, what they get away with today in relation to extra steps, carrying, step backs, etc., wasn't even allowed 20 plus years ago. And honestly, in my opinion, most of that is overused and unnecessary in today's game. Players would rather work on that BS, and that's also what's being taught at the AAU level in camps, et cetera, in order to be able to pop contested threes and spam dribbles. They would rather be working on that and teaching that than the fundamentals of the game and being, turning these players and then players themselves turning themselves into well-rounded players. So yeah, Anthony Edwards' comments are a direct slap in the face to the decades of amazing players who came before him, and I'm insulted by his comments, and I'm not even a former NBA player, Andrew. So I wanted to speak on another recent comment from a former NBA player, Austin Rivers, and he stated on his podcast, if you put myself in the 70s, the 80s, the 90s, I would have been on the top 25 players of all time list. And I love one of the top comments to that post on social media that was posted by Jacob at Jacob the Clipper. And Andrew states, another Andrew, he's not even a better player than his dad. FOH with top 25 all time if he played in prior generations. Atlanta Doc Rivers would have cooked his behind. And that's the funny part, is I have actually watched his father, Doc Rivers, who was a solid point guard in the NBA for many years and was on some great Dominique Wilkins, Kevin Willis Hawks teams. And I can't argue with him. Who says that Austin Rivers was better than his dad? Yeah. Right? But he's talking top 25 player of all time. And the most popular response was this from MMJ3DX. He states, all these guys getting dropped in the 60s, 70s, 80s, etc., and then getting shell-shocked when their first dribble move and 95% of their bag gets called traveling. carrying, palming, and there's no such thing as 3 in the key, so big centers can just wait on them whenever they drive. I love it. I love that this got 360 likes. I love that it was the top comment because it means that most people are not falling for the BS that Austin Rivers is spewing. Most people are not falling for this BS that Anthony Edwards is spewing. They're just like, these new players need to shut up and, respect their history and stop with the BS.
See, here's the thing. If this was LeBron James saying, I could dominate in that era if I went back there and wasn't a 10-year-old, as he is our age, if he was actually of the age that he could play in the NBA with his physical attributes, with his skill set, that he could go back there and be successful, that is LeBron James. A top player saying that, someone who has accomplished something in the NBA saying that, you might give that some credibility, although you would still...
I wouldn't. Absolutely not. I'm sorry. I know what you're saying. I know you're saying it's because it's Austin Rivers and Anthony Edwards obviously is not, doesn't have the resume that LeBron does, but it doesn't change the point. It doesn't change the facts.
True,
it doesn't change what you know about history. It doesn't change how the rules have changed throughout history, how the game is played now and how it was played back then. So I don't care who says it. To be completely honest with you, it's ridiculous.
I know. It's funny when you see a comment from a player like that, and you see a Ryan Hollins, for example, getting on TV and saying all this stuff and talking down Michael Jordan and so forth, and you think, MJ scored more points in his rookie season than you did in your entire career. That is true. Look that up. Look up the career stats for Michael Jordan and Ryan Hollins. And I know that's an appeal to authority. I know that it's fallacious to say, just because somebody wasn't a great player, they can't have great insight. Obviously, here we are commenting on the NBA when we are not NBA players at all, Derek. But the disrespect, to be so disrespectful when you weren't even a star, you can't even claim greatness at that level, and you're talking like you had that authority, just really rubs me the wrong way. Let's not get into the Nick Wrongs and Hackastros of the league, obviously. And someone like a Gilbert Arenas saying, the Celtics with their one title, well actually now 2 titles in the past few decades, are not relevant. Well then, Gilbert Arenas, your whole career wasn't relevant. The disrespectful narratives, I just don't care for them at all.
Well, let's say, Gilbert Arenas, former All-Star, averaged 29 points a game in the NBA, right? How could I possibly know more than him or be right on a subject related to basketball? He's a former NBA player. He was a star. But I know that Anthony Mason and Russell Westbrook were not the same size.
Yes.
I know that Scottie Pippen and Dennis Rodman wouldn't be small little guards in today's NBA. I know that John Stockton was incredibly skilled and not a plumber, etc. So just because Gilbert, right? So these comments, it's like, he plays in the NBA, or he's a star in the NBA, or he's one of the best players of all time. That doesn't make them right.
No.
Right? And that's the thing, is you need to put that part aside and look at facts. And I'm not saying you, Andrew, obviously, but I'm saying those people that fall for this stupid BS. And Austin Rivers, Anthony Edwards, Gilbert Arenas, Ryan Hollins, Kendrick Perkins, all of the players, Kendrick Perkins taking such a really hard shot at Dan Marley, talking about, Dan Marley, being a poor defender and basically talking about him like he's a plumber. Dan Marley was a far better player than Kendrick Perkins, number one. Number two, just because Kendrick Perkins is a former player, does that make him right about Dan Marley? It's stupid. All of it is stupid. So, it's really disappointing. I think you would agree when former players are in the media saying BS like this. It absolutely drives me nuts.
There's about a year between the end of Dan Marley's career and the beginning of Kendrick Perkins' career. That's the other thing.
Yeah, I mean, that's the other with the whole LeBron Jordan thing, which I'm absolutely so sick of it. I think the majority of people who actually truly like basketball are completely and totally sick of it. Their careers literally are separated by one season. So just months. So whatever. So, Andrew, let's get to my next D's dislike for this segment. Angel Reese. So the shameless stat padding from Angel Reese, which has taken place all season to the detriment of her team, was on full display in her game the other night versus the Indiana Fever. With under 4 minutes left, down 25, Teresa Witherspoon, their coach, kept Angel Reese in against the Fever bench warmers, and Reese demanded the ball and got a meaningless double-double. It's a terrible example to set, and it's really bad for the sport. Angel Reese, with 3 minutes and 52 seconds to go in the fourth, so under 4 minutes, had only 5 points and 9 rebounds on 2 for 7 shooting, and she was just feverishly, pun intended, demanding the ball in order to get that double-double. Meanwhile, Caitlin Clark, who was not stat padding and who did all of this in the flow of the game, ended up with 31 points. I want to say 9 for 15 or 9 for 16 from the floor, 8 for 9 from the line, 12 assists, 4 rebounds. So the stat padding by Reese, in my opinion, is such an insult to the game, Andrew. It is blatantly obvious. It's being called out constantly on social media. Does a stat achievement or streak really mean much when you had to stat pad constantly to achieve it? Not only that, the stat padding is taking place in close losses. This streak of double-doubles has been a big factor in her team having a losing record this season. They are 11-19. Her coach, Teresa Witherspoon, should be ashamed for allowing it, for keeping her in these blowouts and constantly having the team feed her the ball in order to stat pad at the end of these games. However, because Reese has a massive social media following, and because sites like ESPN continue to put her at the top of the Rookie of the Year race and never call out the obvious, she has a lot of supporters. I will say it flat out, Andrew, she is a terrible example and bad for the game of basketball.
This is something that we've seen change in basketball, men's and women's, obviously, over the years. Remember Bob Sura, remember Ricky Davis, remember Anthony Bowie, or Bowie, if you will, getting that triple-double against the Pistons back in 1996, calling the timeout to do it, how the Pistons just stood back and let him do it. They were so disgusted, he tried to explain himself, tried to apologize for it, they weren't having a bar of it. You know, even Wilt Chamberlain's 100-point game, as much as that is one of the great feats in NBA history, there are recaps of that game that talk about how it was kind of a farce towards the end, how they were just force-feeding him and just going for that record. So this is something that in the past has been very much frowned upon. But these days, the attitudes has definitely changed. You look at Devin Booker's 70-point game, for example, a meaningless effort because the game was already decided at that point. So, yeah, it's definitely seems like it's celebrated more than it used to be.
Yeah, I think that the problem with Reese is that it's not only been going on all season. You're talking about some instances, right? We're talking about this being like a game-by-game basis. It's happening constantly. It's the fact that it's being celebrated so much by ESPN, by Bleacher Report, by these other sites, and they're constantly propping her up and constantly talking about how she's in the mix for the race and constantly talking about the record without touching on the real issue. Right? Like I said, is it really meaningful when it has to be stat padded and blowouts are right at the end of games? It's not a meaningful record. And the other part of this that's bothersome is Camila Cardoso is another rookie who plays on the same team as Angel Reese. She's a center. She's 6'7", and she is a far more skilled basketball player than Reese. And her numbers, on the season, she's playing about 27 minutes a game, averaging 9 points, 8.1 rebounds, and shooting over 50% from the floor. Right now, Angel Reese is under 40% from the floor. She is a better and more complete player, but for some reason, they're pushing Reese really hard. And it is so unfortunate to watch. You see the comments under the Chicago Sky related social media posts, and everybody's like, why is Cardoso not a bigger part of the offense? Why is she not getting the credit? Why is she not putting up more shots? She's shooting 50% from the floor. She's an excellent rebounder as well, etc. And she's just getting absolutely no attention. So I think this Reese thing is bothersome because, like I said, I think it's a bad thing for the game of basketball. Right? Whether it's women's sports or men's sports, it's bad for the sport in general. And then also it appears to be far more of a actual social media phenomenon than it does anything related to actual basketball production. Right? It's so like those are some of my issues with that. Meanwhile, Caitlin Clark absolutely balling out with the Indiana Fever. She's producing wins, etc. And I think that part of the problem is that the Caitlin Clark, Angel Reese, quote unquote, debate isn't a real basketball debate, because Caitlin Clark is 100 times more skilled, and what she does on the floor directly helps her team win games and impact her team in a positive way. In fact, right now, I believe they're now 6th in their conference and are destined for the playoffs, and I hope they make a solid run. But yeah, Andrew, not good for the sport.
For the record, they're both 90 overall in NBA 2K25, Reese and Clark.
Yeah, they gave Angel Reese a 75 on shot close and like a 68 on driving layup. 75 on shot close for her, when I believe there was a stat earlier this season after they had played around 20 games. She was 13%, Andrew, from the field from 5 to 9 feet. 13%.
Yeah.
That's not a 75 rating, right? So obviously there's politics involved there. Obviously 2K is just trying to not ruffle feathers, but she definitely doesn't deserve anywhere near shot close 75, and I believe driving layup 68. She is one of, if not the worst finisher around the basket that I've ever seen in men's or women's sports. So yeah, that's another one of my dislikes.
Well, it's nice to see that there's consistency in NBA 2K there, that we have padded ratings in both the NBA and WNBA ratings, so they're not playing any favorites. Well, actually, they are playing favorites, but there you go. No, it's what we get with this hot take culture, with this what will get clicks, what will drive the discourse, a very manufactured discourse. Like you say, the Reese versus Clark debate. May as well be the Jordan versus LeBron debate. Of course, they are contemporaries rather than players in different eras, once again overlapping by a year, as we said, with MJ and LeBron there. But yeah, it does feel very false. It does feel very phony. It doesn't promote basketball knowledge. It doesn't really promote the sport in a good way. It just drives a very toxic narrative and people sniping back and forth, which, hey, it gets engagement, but it doesn't teach people about the game.
It's bad for the sport.
It doesn't celebrate the game.
For the sport.
It is. It's just watered down the discourse, up the toxicity of the discourse once again. So yeah, I hate to see it as well.
All right, so another one of my dislikes, Andrew, and I know this is one of the things that can kind of get to you sometimes, keyboard warriors and just nastiness on social media. So I'm going to read a couple comments that I received on a recent post related to NBA 2K25 gameplay. So NBA 2K25 Dispatch showed Trae Young dribbling towards the hoop, going behind his back, and then dribbling again. So he picks up the dribble to go behind his back, touches it with both hands, and then puts the ball down with his other hand once it gets behind his back, and then lays it in. And their title for this video was Shot Cancel Gameplay Feature on NBA 2K25. What's really weird about this, Andrew, is that it was being promoted as a feature, like a good thing, by so many different handles on Twitter. And it's literally a double dribble. Right? He picks up his dribble. And the good thing is that at least most people caught on to that, and they were commenting under this post and the other post about it, and they were like, I mean, that's a double dribble. So what, we're just allowing double dribbling now? And I know that behind the back Trae Young move is supposed to go into a shot traditionally, right? But my comment is, this doesn't look like a shot cancel. No hint of a shot attempt took place. Meaning, if you were to see Trae Young do that in real life, and he doesn't put his arms above his head, he doesn't do anything to like show shot, you would just say he double dribbled.
Yeah.
Right? My second point was, this is a double dribble. Why is this being promoted? Why does this feature allow this? And then I stated that the early gameplay footage I have seen over the last couple of days is so poor. Combo of the game and the person playing. And Andrew, I think you would agree. I think this is the worst preview season in NBA 2K history.
It's up there.
The
or
footage,
down there.
Yeah, or down there. The footage that has been on display has been absolutely piss poor. The people on the sticks do not know how to play this game. They're doing a bunch of hesitation dribbles while crossing half court. They're spamming dribbles. It looks absolutely terrible. I can't even tell you. There hasn't been one video showing gameplay footage that I have thought looked strong. because the person on the sticks and also the way the game works and the mechanics, which we'll get into a little bit later, the combo of that just makes the gameplay look really poor. So one of the comments was, that was a shot cancel. If you've ever used his hop jumper, you instantly recognize that wrap behind the back animation. And I stated, a quote, shot cancel, end quote, by definition is someone showing shot, but keeping his dribble, right? In real life, that is what a shot cancel would be. And you would see that the person was going to be showing shot. And in this case, you weren't, obviously, because Trae Young went behind his back. So I stated, not going behind the back, double dribbling and scoring. And I stated, I understand what you are saying as it relates to Trae Young. But either way, this isn't how a shot cancel should or even could realistically work. And here's one of the keyboard warrior comments, states, the shot was coming right after the wraparound, bruh. You keep trying to argue against facts. Just take your L on the chin. Yeah, I'm sure that those close to you are really proud of you, talking like that, Andrew.
Yeah.
The next comment to me was, shut up. And then there was a comment on my recent NBA 2K16 post, which states, you suck and need to let the past go. New dribbling is just this on new gen hardware. Calm y'all asses down and play the game. So Andrew, keyboard warriors, right? They would never say that to my face. These people more than likely are probably super quiet in real life or probably not confrontational at all. But these are super aggressive posts, right?
Yeah.
They're insulting me. They're calling me names, all because of an NBA 2K25 video related to Trae Young, where I call out a bad sequence. So unfortunately, a lot of times these type of comments can dominate comment sections. And I think that, people who talk like this, I kind of feel bad for them, to be honest with you, because this is how they're living their lives. They had to put finger to key to put those insults together and those words together. And if that's the way that you have to communicate in order to try to make a point or get a point across or attempt to insult somebody, that is really sad.
So let's put this into perspective, Derek. Last week I mentioned that I've been running the NLSC for 23 years, right?
Yes, congratulations again.
Thank you. The point is that I've been running this online endeavor for 23 years and counting, year 24 loading, Derek, as the kids say these days. So I take basketball gaming, fairly seriously. It's been a passion of mine since even before I was running the NLSC and even before I was running the NBA Live domain before that, obviously. But talk about taking this too seriously. You are taking basketball gaming too seriously if you're getting that upset that you're coming at people with a different point of view, a valid observation at that, with that kind of aggressiveness. And the last few weeks, Derek, there's been an uptick on our social media of these kinds of posts. I shared a clip of NBA Live 18 on our Facebook page, got a lot of positive responses, but this really aggressive message, why are you playing this trash? You trash, play some 2K, don't play this trash. This is just all one comment, by the way. Bunch of garbage bin, trash can emojis as well. I shared the clip of NBA 2K7 24/7 mentioning that you don't have to grind so hard, that it's just a fun experience right out of the gate. Get the comment, Grim modes are supposed to be about grinding hard and leveling up from a low-rated player. You just don't want to do that, dummy. Whenever somebody throws in dummy, well, I suppose it might be an LA Knight, the wrestler, reference as well. But when you have to sprinkle insults into comments like that, immediately you just disqualify your opinion as something that needs to be paid any kind of mind, any kind of attention, any kind of credibility given to. But there's been an uptick in that recently. And look, I'm no stranger to the internet, obviously. Certainly I've been in some spirited debates, shall we say. But again, man, the discourse these days, it's garbage.
These people that have been commenting on our content recently, I don't even think they're really paying attention, Andrew. They're not paying attention to, what you're posting or what we're saying on the show. There was a comment on YouTube on a recent NLSC podcast upload stating that D saying LeBron doesn't deserve an era is a joke. This was on our Steph era podcast, where it was called the Steph era and other NBA 2K25 news. I never said that. If you're going to make a comment like that, make sure that it's accurate, because people run with that stuff. I stated, my comment back to him was, I did not state that LeBron didn't deserve his own era. I said that if LeBron has his own era, Steph deserves one as well. Both deserve to be represented with an era. And then he stated he slightly misrepresented me. And I said, you didn't slightly misrepresent what I said. You misrepresented what I said. I did not say that. If you're going to leave a comment like that on a video or anywhere else, please make sure that it doesn't misrepresent the source. Oftentimes, people only read the first comment, and this is how BS spreads, and it can spread fast. And then I said, thank you for listening to the show. If you're going to make a comment like that, you better be accurate about it. Right? Because if somebody clicked on that video and they didn't want to listen to the hour plus show that we put out there, and they saw that first comment, they would automatically think that I said that LeBron James doesn't deserve to have his own era in NBA 2K. Of course, LeBron should have his own era. Right? Of course, LeBron should be represented for his Miami years and what he did as well with Cleveland when he first went back and that 15-16 title and everything. I never said that. But like I stated, I don't think that some of these people, these hostile comments, I don't think they're truly listening to us and or reading the content that you're putting out. And it's really disappointing when that stuff happens. I mean, we expect it as content creators, and this isn't the first time. But all I ask is that if you leave a comment on, an NLSC podcast episode, on one of Andrew's articles, on, something we say on like Twitter or Facebook or et cetera, just make sure that you're thinking it through before you add that comment. Make sure that you're interpreting what we said properly and that you're not coming off attacking us or hostile for no reason.
Well, that's the thing. That wasn't the point you were making. The point you were making was in defense of the Steph era and pointing out that the people who were arguing against the Steph era were using criteria that would also erroneously disqualify LeBron from having an era. That was your point, is that they both deserve an era. So that was a total misrepresentation of that point, all due respect. And look, it's great to get that engagement on the Facebook page, that the videos, the clips that we're sharing are reaching people. A lot of people are enjoying them, and it's very easy to focus on the one or two idiots as opposed to the all the wonderful people who are actually saying nice things, or they're using that as a springboard to reminisce or to talk about basketball gaming positively and enjoying those hobbies and interests. And that is the majority, but just recently, there has been that increase in people being very hostile. And, they don't like the game that we've posted, so we're going to just really rail against people who are having a good time in the comments section and saying, I can't believe you enjoy this. This is trash. The rest of you don't know what you're talking about. And, I mean, it's one thing to have a different opinion on a game, to have that dissenting opinion, whatever, but to attack people like that and to be just so negative and snarky, it's just not cool.
Also, is that really how you want to be seen as a communicator?
Apparently.
I mean, that's you want to be toxic and you want to, turn off people from your comments. That's the way to do it, to be completely honest with you. I'll also point out that like Andrew just stated, about 99% or more of our interactions, people commenting on our stuff is positive. But there's been a few ridiculous comments recently. So yeah, the last D's dislike for this episode is scripted takes on social media from content creators. And I found this mildly amusing, but at the same time also concerning. So do you remember that in NBA 2K24, there was a streak of tweets, multiple tweets stating 2K made this happen. And the person who made the tweet would show like their gaming setup, right? And I called that out on social media and I tagged the people that had made those tweets, and then all of a sudden those tweets disappeared, right? So there's a new rash of tweets that are happening for NBA 2K25, and we talked on a recent episode about how, are these content creators handed scripts, right? Things to say on social media about a game to promote it. One of the ones that is back is NBA 2K25 is better than Prime Fortnite. This was one that was used throughout NBA 2K24. In fact, I was able to dig up around a dozen tweets, and these are what they say. NBA 2K24 is better than Prime Fortnite. Crossplay, rookie legend, beach, tropical park, fast dribbling at 2K24 might be better than Prime Fortnite. Then, after playing NBA 2K24 early, I can confirm it is going to be a better game than Prime Fortnite. Another blue check mark, and this got over 100,000 views and 292 likes. Somebody else, this is the best 2K, trust me, better than Prime Fortnite, somebody with a lot of followers again. Then NBA 2K24 is arguably better than Prime Fortnite right now, and it hasn't even come out yet. And then NBA 2K24 is looking like it's going to be better than Prime Fortnite. So this has got to be a script, right?
There's some astroturfing
right?
going
Like these
on.
content creators have to be given a script to say all this stuff. They're using the exact same wording and they're saying the exact same things in their video. And that Prime Fortnite thing, as I displayed on Twitter, it's back again for NBA 2K25. So my thought process is, and I'm going to use another example right now, is that these content creators are given ways to promote the game, scripted language to promote the game on social media.
One-liners,
Yeah, one-liners, etc. So here's another one. Posted on August 30th. Just quit my job and sold my car, putting my all into 2K25. Call me dumb, I don't care. See you at the top. Hashtag NBA 2K25. Another Twitter user. Just quit my job and sold my car, putting my all into NBA 2K25. Call me dumb, I don't care. Gonna make my dreams a reality. Another Twitter user, Andrew. Just quit my job and sold my car, putting my all into NBA 2K25. Call me dumb, I don't care. Gonna make my dreams a reality. So between August 29th and August 30th, there are over 15 tweets from content creators saying this exact same thing. Scripted? Do you think it's innocent copycat stuff? You know, there's a bunch of these people saying this have blue check marks. Some have 30, 40, 50,000 followers, etc. The stuff bothers me if it is literally just the company saying this is what you should say, right? This is going to help us promote our game. Here's some one-liners. Use these on social media. Could this be another case of that?
So there's only so many words in the English language, Derek, so many ways you can phrase a sentiment. So the idea that some people would have very similar phrasing is not impossible. There is the concept of parallel development. It happens in comedy where people come up with a very similar joke about a very similar topic, especially when it's a topical joke, a matter that's in the news that they're making a joke about. But when it is the same style, when it's the same wording, the exact same phrasing, all the little details that don't need to be the same are the same, it usually indicates, within comedy, a stolen joke. Right, this comes from comedyhints.com. I'll give credit to the article about that. You can actually check it out. No, your joke wasn't stolen, posted way back in December 28, 2015. So parallel development is a thing, but also joke theft is a thing. And the point is that you can tell when a joke is stolen because the wording will be the same. And to that point, the fact that these posts are so similar, identical phrasing like that, really does feel like it's a phony astroturfing attempt here, because it'd be one thing if it was different variations of I'm going to spend all my time on 2K25, or I might risk my job playing 2K25. That would even be pushing it because of the similarities in content of that post. But that identical phrasing, no, that definitely raises suspicion.
Exactly. And I think the other thing that bothers me about it, if it is truly scripted, right? If it's truly something that content creators are kind of being pushed to say, it's a very poor example to set, right? Just like 2K made this happen and it's like a gaming setup. And just quit my job and sold my car.
Oh, for sure.
Which is the beginning of these messages. It is a very, very poor example to set for not just the gaming base, like basketball gaming base, but for our youth in general. So again, I can't confirm that this is all scripted. I can't confirm that 2K hands out scripts. I can't confirm that somebody told these content creators to put these tweets out there. But to be honest, Andrew, that's the way it looks to me when I see all of these looking exactly the same, and some of the people saying them being high follower content creators.
Oh, for sure. And I mean, if nothing else, it shows a lack of imagination on their part. If it's not scripted, if they're not being fed these lines, then they may be copying each other, which is not exactly being original, being authentic, for sure. And to your point, a lot of these creators are the same ones that are doing pack opening videos, doing videos that show you how to break the meta, break the game. So a lot of the content, to be honest, is pushing people in a bad direction, getting them to dump money into creating multiple builds and raising their ratings immediately, of course. So I don't much care for that content anyway. But yeah, like I said, it's very suspicious.
There was one that I found kind of funny because I don't know if this person was mocking the whole just quit my job and sold my car thing, but he states, just quit my job, sold my car, dropped out of school, moved out, donated half of my blood, blocked all my in real life friends, and burned all bridges with my family, putting my all into NBA 2K25 Legend 5 grind. Call me dumb, I don't care, gonna make my dreams a reality. That didn't get much interaction. This is not a high follower account, so I don't know if he saw
I'd say it's a parody,
the other tweets.
Pretty good.
Yeah, and it was just, but it was pretty solid, yeah. But yeah, Andrew, that's it for D's dislikes. And, to our listeners, if you did like this segment and would like it to return in the future, where I can talk about certain things that are kind of grinding my gears at that time, I can definitely bring it back.
And here's the thing, as we've said before, we want to celebrate basketball gaming and basketball and be a positive influence in the community. But sometimes, Derek, you just got to push back on some of this BS. Yeah,
and there's a lot of it out there. Right. And unfortunately, it gets magnified and gets thrown in your face as soon as you log on to social media. Right. Like I wasn't seeking out those Anthony Edwards comments. I wasn't seeking out the Angel Reese BS, all of that, or Austin Rivers statement. It hit me right in the face when I logged on to social media. Right.
It's there in the feed.
And of course, somebody who loves basketball. Right. And who's, basketball has been such a big part of my life, and I respect the game. And I respect the history of the game, and I love playing the game, all of that. And I love basketball video games, right? Like, I'm invested in basketball. So when this stuff hits me right in the face, and I find it so bad for the sport and just an overall bad example to our youth coming up as well. Yeah, of course it's going to bother me, right? So, like Peter Griffin's Grind My Gears set, I felt like this was an appropriate time for the D's dislikes.
And shout out to Jacob the Clipper, doing great work, pushing back on those narratives.
Yeah, good job there. And he's pretty active on social media trying to push back on this stuff. So we definitely need more people doing that.
Before we go on, a reminder that the NLSC podcast comes out every week on the NLSC, nba-live.com, as well as our YouTube channel. We're also on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and other podcast apps. If you're listening on any of those apps, we'd greatly appreciate a review. To keep up with the show and everything we're doing with basketball gaming in general, connect with us on social media. On Twitter and Facebook, we are the NLSC. We also have an Instagram, NLSC Basketball, and on YouTube, we're youtube.com/NBA Live Series Center. Once again, visit us at nba-live.com, where in addition to the podcast, you'll also find all of our original content, as well as our forum and modding community.
So, Andrew, NBA 2K25, a lot of gameplay footage has been released. However, you have an update related to the city before we get to our impressions of that gameplay.
Yes, of course, the city is the hub world, the open world hub, if you will, of my career. It is the evolution of the neighborhood in prior gen, of course. I mention this because some gamers on PC may not be as aware of what's going on in the city, but it is basically the same concept as the neighborhood. That was this week's big courtside report on the city. Some of the key points: they've condensed the map, less running around, everything's more connected and accessible, nearly every building can be interacted with. That is a good move, Derek, because there was a lot of empty space in the city. I've shown you that before. Have you ever jumped into the city just to have a look at it?
What do you think?
Yeah, I know. Ask a silly question. But a lot of the buildings in previous cities, they were just there. And sure, there's nice murals, and it's certainly a cityscape. They've certainly created a city, but there's just not a lot to do. And this is something I've talked about before in an article, Derek, that it's how 2K has gotten the open world wrong, and why it is so unnecessary in my career, especially with so many buildings that you can't interact with, as has been the case in previous years. You look at an open world game like Grand Theft Auto, you look at the open world RPGs like a Fallout, like an Elder Scrolls, there is something to do in that game world wherever you go. With the city in my career, it's basically an extended, pretty, interactive loading screen, right? There's not actually a lot of gameplay in between like there is in an actual open world game. So condensing the map, that's a good move. There's still going to be the usual murals celebrating basketball, etc. around the city. I saw a funny clip on social media where somebody was saying that, you're celebrating basketball in a basketball game? Go figure. And yeah, I did enjoy that snark there.
How dare you? I mean, they added go-karting now to like a go-kart track to NBA 2K25. How dare you not want that, Andrew?
I know.
How dare you want your game to be mostly about basketball?
From the producers of Lego 2K. And look, that kind of side quest stuff, I suppose there is a place for that. I don't participate in it. There is a 1 million VC reward if you win the race of the week, which, hey, great if you can get it. But to get it, you also need to get the top vehicles, which cost VC anyway, either to purchase or to level up your player to get them as rewards. So there you go. Probably by the time you get that 1 million VC, you don't really need it. But anyway, the classic Park Courts, Sunset Beach, Rivet City, and both Old Town Courts, they're going to return as events. A lot of people excited about that, understandably so. My Court is back, as previously mentioned. That is a good move. As you said, there is the track if you want to go and play the racing mini-games. Oh, there are new team mode dances. I know that's going to get you into my career, Derek, dancing with your teammates in the city. So there are some pointless, to me anyway, enhancements. Also, some good moves like condensing the map, getting everything close together, having buildings that actually make sense, get you right into playing basketball, which is what the mode is supposed to be about after all. One thing I do want to touch on here, Derek, is Rebirth. This is the quest. Once you hit 90 overall, any new My Plays that you create will be able to have that progress automatically. This is something that has come in the last couple of years, actually. But people were very excited because now when you complete the Rebirth quest, be able to create those new players, they'll automatically have the maximum potential that you previously attained, based on your highest overall rating that you've reached with a previous My Player. Now, Derek, can you identify the troubling word in that sentence?
Well, first off, if you're not dancing with your teammates, are you even playing basketball, Andrew?
Of course.
So is the word you're looking for potential?
Yes, exactly. Because when this was first announced, people thought, oh, I get to, say, 93 overall with a player, I unlock the Rebirth quest, I complete it, I create a second player, I'm immediately 93 overall, I've got my silver level badges automatically unlocked, etc. That would sound really good on paper, right? It would, but potential. That means that your player, the new player, has already broken through the caps. You've already leveled up to a maximum potential of, say, 93 overall. You still start as a 60 overall player and have to grind your way up or pay to get there. So while there is a good aspect to this, there are benefits, at the end of the day, it's not preventing the grinding that will need to take place with that second My Player after grinding, or again paying, for the first. And this is not surprising. It would be leaving money on the table, a lot of money on the table, if they were to do it that way. But you've got to be really careful about these things, Derek. You've got to look at the phrasing, because when people first saw this, they thought, oh, this is fantastic. And it is good, but not as good as it first appeared.
I just want to point out, when a company is talking about the next release, when they're talking about what are our numbers going to be for NBA 2K25, they're not going to say, well, it's okay to have less money hit our bottom line than NBA 2K24. That is not the way business works, right?
No.
So like you stated on a prior show, they're going to get you one way or another with the goal of making more money hit that bottom line. That is how business works. Goals go up each year based on the previous year's results. What they want you to do, more than likely, is want to build more players, right? And they want you to put money into those players. And that's a big money driver for the company. And why do you think one of the most popular videos, one of the most often post videos, are related to creation of new builds? Right? It's all about, hey, try this build. No, now this build is great. Oh, this build is even better. All of that stuff. It's because what they want you to do is they want you to be like, all right, I didn't like this build that much. Let's try a new build. Let's start from scratch. And then those gamers will now put money into the game in order to get their player higher overall, so they don't have to grind him up. Right. So just keep that in mind whenever you see this stuff, people. Whenever you see these build videos, whenever you see, talk of predatory mechanics or gambling mechanics, etc. Think about the company's financial goals related to this game. They are going to do whatever they possibly can to make more money with NBA 2K25 than NBA 2K24. That's business.
There's always going to be a catch, right? I mean, we're gonna win some battles as far as, oh, we're listening to you, and that's something else they reiterated in the City blog. We heard you. We heard the community has spoken. We're taking that feedback on board. So, which obviously some of the feedback is getting through. They are making those changes, but there is always going to be a catch because, like you say, they're not going to leave money on the table. They're not going to say, "Oh, let's make this game less profitable." The suits,
right? They didn't sit around a table. They didn't sit around a table or go on a Zoom call and be like, "Listen, guys,
we're making too much money.
I think that we're making too much money. We should make less on NBA 2K25 because we just don't want to make as much money." Like,
let's
that's not something that
let's give the game away for free.
Let's just give it away for free. Let's do it for free. Let's make it free to play without microtransactions, right? Let's just make the world would be a better place. Let's do that. No, that's not the way these companies work. So let's get to the gameplay. I posted a thread showing a bunch of gameplay videos on NBA 2K25 related to De'Aaron Fox dribbling, Jamal Murray dribbling, going into a step back, Steph Curry dribbles, part of the first quarter between Nuggets and I want to say Mavericks, etc. And I also post leaked, quote unquote leaked, not truly leaked, Andrew. We know that's all BS.
Yep.
NBA 2K25, my team triple threat park gameplay at Rivet City. And these are my honest feelings about the gameplay that I've seen so far. And I want to preface this by stating I always give the game a chance. You know it, right? You know I'm on the sticks. You know I'm trying the different modes. You know I'm messing with sliders. I am doing whatever I possibly can to make this game fun and part of my rotation, and I do it every single year. However, from the gameplay footage that I've seen, in the worst preview season I have ever seen 2K have, the issues that have hurt the gameplay in a big way over recent years are still showing, and they're showing in a big way. They're skating all over the court, terrible foot planning, despite them talking about improved foot planning technology, which how many years have they said that? It's constant, in the developer blogs, etc. Janky, odd, unrealistic player movement, players having really tough time just even doing something as simple as changing directions or pivoting, ball warping on dribbles, Andrew. The ball is just moving from hand to hand. It doesn't even look like it's hitting the ground. I'm seeing players turn with the ball, and while they're turning, the ball is like being palmed by one of their hands, and they're moving their feet at the same time. There just seems to be a lot of weird legacy issues. And when I say legacy, I mean in this new motion system, weird issues that have been going on for the last 6 years, but specifically the last 4 years, the last 4 or 5 releases. And they're still there in a big way, and suction issues in a bunch of the gameplay. Every time a player was trying to turn the corner, it felt like they were just completely attached to the defender in a side-by-side animation. And the players aren't even actually touching each other. They're just in this side-by-side animation with this weird force field going on. And I saw it on some drives to the hoop as far as players transferring over to the offensive player and just being stuck to him, etc. So my biggest issues with gameplay over, the last 4 or 5 years, all of them are present in these gameplay videos. And I think that the footage looks, that's being uploaded, as I stated earlier in the show, just kind of looks ridiculous. I think that the people on the sticks, in combination with kind of how the game mechanics work, has just made this preview season really, really messy. And if you look at the comment sections on Twitter and on other social media platforms about the gameplay, the large majority of them are negative. People talking about how, it looks like it has the same issues as NBA 2K24, or it looks very similar to 2K24 in a bad way, that they were doing all of this hype for the game for it to look, very underwhelming, etc. The graphics don't really look different. The crowds are a little bit darker, I would say. Somebody else pointed that out as well. But yeah, I'm not impressed with the footage. that I've seen, and I have a bad feeling that it's just going to be another blah year.
I'm feeling very much the same way. I hate to say it, because I did want to enter this preview season with skepticism, sure, but less cynicism, certainly being open-minded, but I haven't seen anything that really changes my mind as to how I felt about NBA 2K24, what I'm expecting for NBA 2K25. We talk about the scripting, the astroturfing. You see the line that's being parroted a lot. Oh, anybody who thinks this is just like 2K24 doesn't know what they're talking about. Seeing a lot of people saying that as well, a lot of prominent content creators. And the
super shills.
Yeah.
That's what I'm going to start calling them. They're all super shills.
I think we should adopt that phrasing, absolutely. But the footage tells a different story. Now, you can certainly take some clips and show, oh, pro play has improved this particular scenario, this particular signature animation. It is true. I do think there are some clips that have shown, oh, this does look a little bit better, or it does look a little bit more authentic when you put it up against real footage, etc. But a lot of those clips that do look better, have you noticed, Derek, they're the shorter ones. They're the ones taken out of context just to spotlight that particular animation. We can all do that. Look at NBA Live 07, Derek. Yes, I'm going to bring up Live 07 again. If you saw my Baron Davis spin and reverse dunk in the NLSC Top 10 Plays, and you should always check out the NLSC Top 10 Plays and watch them many times, in fact, Derek. It's a lot of fun to watch each and every week. You do a great job with them. The community has been sending us some great highlights. I digress. But if you see that clip, you might say, oh, Live 07 wasn't that bad. I mean, it's clearly rough, but it's not as bad as people say. But if you saw the rest of the gameplay around that clip, Derek, you know, I made it look okay in that clip, but that was a rarity for 07.
Yeah, but these content creators, though, Andrew, they're not even making it look okay.
Well, there is that, sure.
I'm seeing hesitation dribbles at half court. I'm seeing shots that no NBA player would ever take. I'm looking at the worst spam dribbling that I've ever seen. These people being deployed to show off this gameplay footage, they don't know really what they're doing on the sticks.
Oh, of course.
So the game has all of these issues, right? So it has these ridiculous issues that I mentioned. I also want to point out, I don't understand how a sports game with the issues that I just mentioned and how bad they are and how really, really poor this game looks, I do not know how it doesn't get scrutinized more. I don't understand why more people are not discussing how so flawed the player movement is in these 2Ks, how ridiculous it looks in a 5-on-5 sim.
Well, here's the thing. People do get used to broken mechanics, and I'll bring up my other classic example here, Bard versus Space Mutants, Derek. Check the bingo box, everybody. I brought it up on the podcast again. I can play that game and have a fun time with it, indulge my nostalgia, all of that stuff, but that's because I'm so used to that broken game, that really poorly designed 8-bit platformer compared to other 8-bit platformers. I know how to make it work. That doesn't mean it isn't broken AF, Derek. The Bud versus the Space Mutants. It's the same with a lot of basketball games over the years. If you get used to those mechanics, if you find a way to enjoy them, you can make them work, and that clouds your opinion, and you say, oh, you just need to get good, or there's nothing wrong with this because I like it. A lot of us can enjoy or find a way to enjoy a game that is a bit janky, a little bit broken, if we can master those mechanics.
Yeah, well, I also want to point something out really quick. There's also been some super botches as part of this preview season. So one of the people who was invited to Community Day, posted Bronny James in a Lakers uniform scoring 81 points. First off, I don't think that's super appropriate anyway. For not only is he a rookie who hasn't shown anything, but how does that a positive promotion of NBA 2K25? Bronny James scoring 81 like Kobe did. Right. And in the video of these highlights, it looks absolutely terrible. The way this guy is getting his shots off, the way he's backing out to the perimeter and the ball is stuck to his hand and he's moving his feet at the same time to try to create space for a three, all that, it just looks really bad. That is bad promotion for the game. And the comments overall really tell the story. It's a bad promotion for the game. Then a bunch of content creators, including people who were at Community Day, posted a new Anthony Edwards cyberface that looks nothing like Anthony Edwards. It looks absolutely terrible. It looks more like Jawan Oldham, who played for the Bulls in the mid-'80s. It is somehow worse than the face that we had that was not accurate in the past. And then all of these community day people and the content creators were showing this face and saying hashtag NBA 2K25. He finally got a new face. And people in the comments are ripping this apart. They're like, 2K can't even get this right after all of these years. 2K is getting beat out by modders everywhere on this Anthony Edwards cyberface. It is bad promotion. And then some of the content creators tried to backpedal with comments under the tweet that this is subject to change. But why did it get out there in the first place, Andrew?
Yeah.
That's terrible promotion for the game. And then the Trae Young play that I was talking about earlier, where he double dribbles and scores. They were promoting shot cancel with that. The big 2K accounts, some of the community day people, they were promoting that double dribble, saying, hey, check out the shot cancel feature in NBA 2K25. That is silly. That is terrible for promotion for the game. And rightfully so, all the comments are like, this is ridiculous. Why are you guys showing this? This needs to be patched ASAP. This is the worst preview season I have ever seen for any basketball video game, to be completely honest with you, and definitely for 2K.
Well, Juwan Oldham, of course, one of those players that wasn't skilled back in the day, as nobody was, as we rightfully informed by Anthony Edwards, even if he doesn't look like his proper self in 2K. But
Juwan Oldham actually was a good shot blocker. So.
Absolutely. Played with rookie Jordan. Like I said, there are clips that show an improved animation here or there, out of context. You can see, pro players added this great new animation. Fantastic. But the gameplay itself, when you see that raw gameplay, it doesn't really impress me. It does look very similar to 2K24. Now, that being said, obviously, I will reserve final judgment until I play it myself on the settings that I like and see if it delights me that way. I'd never like to draw too many conclusions from footage as far as how much I'll enjoy a game. Like I say, I myself have enjoyed broken or shoddy mechanics before, Derek, in basketball games, and otherwise I've found a way to have fun with games that have problems, so we shall see. But I look at that footage, I don't see this huge jump that is being pushed by these scripted comments, as it seems. So, yes, I am reserving final judgment until I actually get to play the game. That is the sensible thing to do. I'm sure you're the same. But nothing about this has really hyped me for the game. I'm not expecting much. I'm keeping my expectations low, and that may be a good thing at the end of the day. I may enjoy the game more because of that. But, yeah, looking at this footage, I'm not buying into what they're trying to sell.
I'll tell you what, they need different people on the sticks. That's for one thing. I mean, and I think that that's part of the problem with the whole, influencer thing, with the whole content creator thing. If you're just going after people with subscribers or people who are popular on TikTok or, people who have a high following on YouTube, etc., then and they don't truly know basketball and they don't really know how to use the players and maybe they don't even play the 2K series much at all, that's what you're going to get for gameplay. I think it's a very poor showing, and I think it's absolutely terrible marketing.
Well, they said wasn't it 100 people at that community event? Wouldn't it be better to get 10 to 15 really dedicated content creators who are honest and dependable and know the game well, rather than saying, it's the biggest event ever? But if 90% of the people attending don't really know the game or aren't really great advocates for the game, then that's not good. That's just quantity over quality.
Well, apparently, if you want to, be a content creator for 2K, you got to quit your job and sell your car. And, in order to make your dreams a reality.
I like my car.
According to those tweets. I know. Do you? Do you still love it?
I absolutely do, yeah. 96 Toyota Camry, still running like a dream.
Unbelievable. Unbelievable. Reminds me of that story of Kawhi Leonard. He drives an old beat-up truck, apparently, and they asked him about it, and he was like, it runs.
Oh, yeah. Well,
and
my mechanic says that he gets a lot of different makes, and cars are coming into the garage there, but whenever my particular model of car comes in, it's a basic tune-up, and they just run for years. So go Toyota. This is not sponsored, but it could be.
There you go. I haven't had my car. No, I haven't had my car that long, but it's 13 years old, and I've had it for 8 years, and it's going strong. So, Andrew, I asked the community, you have now seen multiple gameplay videos go up for NBA 2K25. What are your thoughts? And we did receive a few responses. Steven at the Live King states, the game looks good for 1v1 situations. Everything else needs work. In my opinion, after going back to past 2Ks this year, I feel pro play should be used on everything, not just signatures. I believe that would improve the gameplay, but they also have to rework sliders. So I disagree with him, although I will preface that stating that I have a lot of respect for the Live King. I think he puts together great content. He makes great highlights. I love how he messes with sliders, and he's like us. He tries to make the best of every situation. Right, he always tries to make a game work. I think the 1v1 looks incredibly poor. Every single time I see the way dribbling looks and the ball just like not even hitting the floor, just switching hands, and how fast and unrealistic it is, and the janky movement. And then whenever somebody tries to go right or left, there's that force field suction, wall thing that happens. And depending on what's going on, the player is either slowed down or sped up. I don't think it looks good at all in 1v1, and I'm hoping that maybe when I get my hands on the sticks and mess with stuff, maybe I can make it a little bit better on my end. But that's the way I feel. As far as pro play, I just haven't seen it yet. I've seen it look okay on certain shooting animations, but I've also seen shooting animations look absolutely perfect and flawless before pro play ever existed. Right. And things like Steph Curry's size up in the past and his dribbles in general. And in NBA 2K16, when we had 4 size up options, back, front, left, right, there was a lot of signature style there that never needed pro play, where it looked exactly like James Harden, exactly like Steph Curry, exactly like Kevin Durant, etc. In fact, on NBA 2K17, even that recent session that we had, there was a lot of signature style there. Right, with Steph Curry and everything. And the dribbling looks better and feels better in that game. So not 100% on board with that, but I see where he's coming from about pro play. But yeah, I don't think that's going to fix the game's engine issues.
Well, I kind of do agree with him as far as there being different scenarios that do look better. And certainly when they are just showing a player shooting around on the practice court to show off a particular move, especially one that's been captured with pro play, that's where you see some improvement, or it certainly looks okay. Whether it's better than 2K24 or not, we can certainly debate, but certainly it looks okay in that scenario because you are demonstrating a specific animation in a 10 to 15 second clip. So I do see that, but to his point, when you put it all together, when you see that raw gameplay, all those scenarios playing out, all those animations transitioning into one another, the interactions between all the players on the court, that's when you see those issues.
Yeah, I just don't see it yet with pro play at all. I saw way more authenticity in the way the game looked and felt in past titles. At Bucky T states, I won't glaze this game like these influencers are. I'll tell the truth. 2K25 looks very similar to last year. The foot planning, sliding, and skating is still horrible. The dribbling looks out of control still. I did notice they improved a little bit with rim mechanics. I did see on the footage a couple more bounces. So better ball to rim mechanics.
That's welcome.
That's something that's sorely missed. So hopefully that comes into fruition when we get our hands on the game when it's released. But yeah, I agree with you on all those points. Guess the quest for 6 starts now. States look smooth, but I really didn't look so hard because I really dislike that 2K cam. So we have a fellow broadcast cam person out there, Andrew. He doesn't like the 2K cam. Maybe he likes wire, maybe he likes broadcast. But yeah, not a fan of that view. And that's the view that's being used on all the footage.
And the 2K cam elitists will say, well, that's the only way to play. This is how you should be seeing the game. That is ridiculous. There are many viable ways to play. There are reasons to play on different camera angles. Personally, when I'm playing player locked, Derek, I do like to play an over-the-shoulder view because I like the way those cameras focus always on my player. If I'm controlling the entire team, I want the camera to focus on the ball. I want that authentic broadcast view. I will switch between the two. I'm a little bit weird that way, although I do think other people are like that as well. So maybe I'm not that weird, but yeah, if the camera is not showing the game in a way that you usually enjoy it, it's hard to get hyped about it.
Absolutely. I'm hoping that broadcast footage comes up over the next few days, but I'm not holding my breath. We did have a couple Discord responses as well. Pep states, I'm waiting for 2K25 only because I hope someone would be so nice and export Clippers numbers for me. So Pep is all about modding jerseys. He's a legend in the 2K modding community. He's made so many great jerseys for different mods over the years, and he wants that art. He wants to be able to dive into those PC files and get that base art.
Shout out to Pep as always for the fantastic mods he's made, and also has the right approach to the modding community. He is a very staunch supporter of not charging for mods, so we really appreciate Pep's efforts in our modding community.
Absolutely. ZCB44 states, got me to flip from waiting for a sale to buying at launch. The redone dribbling and movement looks to be for real, and most importantly, it looks fun. While I completely disagree with him about the way the game looks, and he's definitely entitled to his opinion, I will say that the end of his statement, where he states, most importantly, it looks fun, that's what it's about. And we want as many people as possible to have fun with these games. I still play NBA 2K16, 17, 2K19, 2K14, 2K13. I am constantly playing past 2K titles. This isn't a hate 2K thing. I'm not being a hater. I'm giving my honest opinions about the preview footage for NBA 2K25 and how I felt about the recent releases. And there is nothing wrong with that. The goal for both Andrew and I is to put on NBA 2K25 and be blown away, right? We want to put on that game and just have a blast on the sticks and create memories
preferably
with that game. And ZCP44, I hope you have fun with it.
And that is an important point. It's something else that bothers me about the shilling and the best game ever before it's even released, before we've seen how it plays out over the year, before we've seen if we get a patch in the first couple of months that wrecks the game. That's happened before, Derek. So even if it's the greatest game at launch, maybe by the end of its release cycle, people don't enjoy it because they've figured out the broken meta, and that's ruined the online scene. Maybe there's a patch comes through with some tuning updates that they don't like. Maybe they listen to the loudest voices who have some bad ideas about the game. It's happened before, may happen again. But they're focusing on, I want to have fun with the game, is absolutely the right attitude. And look, it's the same with the real basketball discourse, the constant ranking, the constant GOAT debate, etc. There's not that love of the game, that enjoyment of basketball, of just saying, oh, wasn't that cool? And isn't it great to see all these great players throughout history? Hasn't that been fun to watch, this beautiful sport of basketball? No, it's about ranking and rating and putting down and lifting up. Same with this discourse and the shilling of 2K25 before it's even out. Oh, it's the greatest game ever. It's greater than Fortnite. It's better than Prime Fortnite. I don't like Fortnite, Derek, so that doesn't sell me at all. Tell me it's better than Donkey Kong Country 2, I might listen to you. I won't believe you, but it might actually get my attention more than pumping up Fortnite. No disrespect to anybody who enjoys Fortnite. It's not for me, but that's the point. It doesn't sell it to me saying it's better than Fortnite because Fortnite is not my game. But that is the right attitude to have, wanting to have fun, and really that's how the game should be sold, is that this is fun. I'm enjoying myself. I think other people will enjoy themselves too. I would still be skeptical if people were saying that, but I would find that far more palatable than the shilling that's going on.
No, 100%. I'll also say this about patches. Companies leaning on patches has hurt games in general, not just in sports games, but other video games in different genres. I think that companies far too often lean on patching after release, patching at the midpoint of a release, etc., as opposed to just having a super strong product that they know is going to hit with consumers right out of the gate.
And one final response from Royce over on Facebook. And Royce has a very similar view of games as we do, Derek, so this won't surprise you that he largely agrees with what we've been saying, actually. Says, it looks fine. It's not that different from 2K24 in my view. Yes, some additions to gameplay and such have been added, but I agree with Derek and other members of the community about things such as foot planting, suction, skating, etc. I will be playing 2K25, just as I have with all 2K games since 2K3. Have to add in something Andrew and Derek say in the podcast, and it is worth repeating here, it matters who is on the sticks. Yes, I know any game can look terrific with players who can play it well, not disputing that at all. I think the game looks best when you see people playing the game well, is what I'm trying to say. Any game, honestly, not just 2K25. Another thing I would like to add is it fun to play? That is a big question for any game, I grant you, but it should be for a basketball game as well. I hope 2K is a good game and fun to play. So once again, completely agree with those sentiments.
Awesome comment, and definitely agree. I think that going back to what I stated, I think the people that were playing the game and showing the early footage, I think that was just bad marketing. I think that those people, if they weren't comfortable on the sticks yet, they should have made sure they were comfortable before throwing that footage out there. And if they weren't able to get comfortable, if they haven't spent time with the series over the recent years, if they just are not capable of making the game look a little bit better, then they shouldn't have been out there releasing early gameplay footage. So yeah, I definitely agree. And like we said, we just want people to have fun with the game, and we're hoping that it's a hit with consumers. But judging by the comments that I'm seeing during this preview season, which do mean something, and most of them are negative, it's not looking too great, but hopefully things will change. But Andrew, lastly, we're short on time, but we had a session earlier today on NBA Live 2003. You wanted to control the Timberwolves versus the CPU Spurs. And I know that you weren't a huge fan of NBA Live 2003 when it was released. You were looking for something a little bit more sim. But those sessions were fun earlier, Andrew. We lost the first game by a couple points. We got absolutely demolished by Steve Smith and Tim Duncan. But in the second game, we ended up winning, and KG was obviously the star, putting up very realistic numbers. I believe he had 28 points and 13 rebounds in the game. But really, the person who stole the show for us was Anthony Peeler. And he was the reason why we built the lead, in my opinion, just hitting a flurry of threes at the end of the first half and at the beginning of the second half. But yeah, Live 2003, that sideline camera view that we used, the quick first step, the right stick dribbling, the triple threat, the loud dunks, the fast NBA action, it hit with me today, and I had fun with the game.
It was definitely a fun session, and that was a tough loss to swallow because we did come back from a deficit and thought we were going to force overtime in that game, and then just trying to get that last shot up was...
I should have hit the mid-range pull-up with Kevin Garnett. I just want to point that out. My attempt to tie the game was a mid-range pull-up with Kevin Garnett over Tim Duncan. I probably should have called a timeout to get the ball to half court for us. But honestly, I was just trying to push it up the floor as fast as possible. But I'm kind of upset I missed that shot because that is definitely a Kevin Garnett shot.
Could have been a top 10 play, forcing overtime. And who knows what we would have done in the overtime. We did get it together in that second game, so I think we could have won that first game had that happened. But look, we avenged the loss. That's the main thing. Live 2003 is a game that I'll always have mixed feelings about because it's not as sim as I want. It would be nice to be able to change the gameplay with sliders. There are no sliders in that game. 2004 brought them into the live series. That was a very welcome addition the following year, and also tuning it down a bit from some of the arcadey action. It is leaning towards being a sim arcade hybrid, Live 2003. It is definitely heading in that direction. I truly believe they corrected course with Live 2004. That being said, I can enjoy it today. That's the great thing about retro gaming. You know what you're getting. You can either accept it or not. You can simply not play a game if you don't enjoy it, or you can go back and give it a look and accept it for what it is. That is what I do with Live 2003. Is it as realistic as I think it should be and should have been? No, but it is still a lot of fun. It is fast-paced action, as you said. And yeah, revisiting it over the years, I have warmed up to it a little bit more. I did enjoy it at first, but then I just soured on it because of how it was leaning in that arcade direction. But I did enjoy playing with the Timberwolves because I was playing a franchise with the Timberwolves, played about half a season, 12-minute quarters of course, Derek, with that Timberwolves team. It was fun while I enjoyed the gameplay, fun while it lasted, if you will. So it was really nostalgic to go back and play with them in that session. I was glad that we did that against the Spurs. And there's a video that popped up, I think it's from Secret Base, actually, about the Duncan versus KG battle back in the day, which also inspired me to suggest Duncan versus KG. And Timberwolves, again, I have that leaning towards a bit more of a fun team to play with. And that team had some pieces. I think they did pretty well. I think they were a 50 or 60 win team that year. They were heading towards being a team that could at least be in title contention when they brought in Spreewell the following year. The 2003 Timberwolves are still a fun team to play with as well. And yeah, KG versus Duncan, that was a big thing back in the day, much like Kobe versus T-Mac.
Yeah, I mean, there's arguments today about who was the better player, right? I mean, obviously Tim Duncan has the better championship resume, but a lot of times you have to factor in situation too, right? Like who were you playing with, and who was with you for the majority of your career. And there can be an argument that Kevin Garnett was just an overall more skilled player than Tim Duncan, especially on the offensive end. Garnett was an incredibly gifted passer, just knockdown mid-range shooter, had all the moves, could be argued as a better athlete. Actually, cannot be argued. I think he is a better.
Yeah.
I think he was a better athlete than Tim Duncan. So yeah, I mean, that debate could still take place and be an honest, fun debate to have. I think that, Terrell Brandon as a starter on that team, and Anthony Peeler and the super underrated Troy Hudson off the bench. And then we had Zerbiak, a former All-Star, slotted in there at the shooting guard position, and Kevin Garnett was playing small forward there in the starting lineup. And then we had Joe Smith, who did put up numbers in his NBA career, and the size with Nesterovic. So yeah, I think that Timberwolves team is fun. I also want to state that Tony Parker had one of the best floaters in basketball history, but not from half court. That one that he hit on us at the end of the first quarter was a big FU from the computer. And fortunately, we did end up winning that game and blowing them out. But yeah, just a big FU from the computer, that half court Tony Parker floater that went in.
Did you notice that I knocked him down as well? That could have been a 4-point play very easily.
Yeah, I think one of our best tactics to win that second game was just running over the CPU to get steals. There were several times where I bumped into the offensive player and he just went to his knees and the ball got jarred and I went flying up the court and threw it down. So, yeah, the game definitely has its issues, but it was fun revisiting it. I actually had a good time.
It's always fun to revisit, even if I do have mixed feelings about it, because over the years I have come to warm up to the game again, as I did when I first got it, because it does have freestyle control, obviously. The first year of right-stick dribbling and other right-stick moves defensively as well. The control over whether you want to go for the steal with the left or right hand, that was a step in the right direction. They just needed it to be in a little bit more of a sim gameplay. The blocks, look, they can be annoying because sometimes you want to keep the ball under control when you block a shot, but at the same time, when Terrell Brennan spots a shot to the other end of the court, just sailing to the opposite baseline and out of bounds. Look, it's ridiculous. It's not always what you want, but it's kind of entertaining too.
Also, Terrell Brandon, every single time on drives to the hoop, he was switching his hands on the layup.
Jordan-esque.
That's not something he was doing the spectacular move by Michael Jordan. Not exactly as dramatic, but he was doing that on pretty much every drive to the hoop. And it was like, really, can we at least have a different layup animation here? So, yeah, it was still fun. The game is not perfect, but yeah, I love revisiting the classics.
And to your point, KG, you certainly could make that argument that even without the rings, even without the team success, that he was the better individual player. A very interesting debate, obviously. You go back to Kobe and T-Mac. I think Kobe, with his accomplishments and also proving himself as the undisputed number one on the team, did settle that debate ultimately. And of course, unfortunately, Tracy McGrady was never the same after injuries and knee surgery. But yeah, those were legitimate debates back in the day. People forget.
Yeah, absolutely. Just the era of great power forwards was upon us. Tim Duncan and Kevin Garnett and Dirk Nowitzki, and then you also had people like Elton Brand and whatnot. There was just Chris Webber. There was a flurry. Rasheed Wallace. Like I could just go on and on. There was just so many good power forwards in the NBA at that time and throughout the 2000s.
And of course, please let us know any other games you'd like us to revisit, and we'll throw up some footage on the YouTube channel, of course, and talk about it here on the podcast, Derek.
Yeah, absolutely. Let us know in the comments on the YouTube video or on social media, or reach out to us personally, and we'd love to hear from you.
And of course, NBA 2K25 releases this week. For people who have pre-ordered already, they will get the early tip-off on the Wednesday, releases Friday for everybody. By the time this is out, I will also have a Monday tip-off posted talking about the honeymoon phase of every NBA 2K release. Derek touches on a lot of the things that we talked about in this show, actually, about how it's very difficult to critique the game in the first couple of weeks because you do have a lot of shills trying to shout down criticism. It does take a couple of weeks or so before we can really have those nuanced conversations. By all means, speak up, speak your mind. If you enjoy the game, be honest about that. If you don't enjoy the game, be honest about that as well. We certainly will be, but give that article a look. And Derek, I think that it will resonate with people who have played a lot of basketball video games, been through a few previous seasons, and seen what it's all about, and been both delighted and disappointed at different times. So give that a look. With that being said, that has brought us to the end of this week's show. As always, we thank you for tuning in and invite you to join us again next week and every week, either on the NLSC, NBA-live.com, our YouTube channel, or your podcast app of choice. In the meantime, please connect with us on social media. That's where you can get in touch with us. And of course, stay up to date with all of our content. So Derek, go ahead and plug the handles.
Yeah, you can reach me on X, formerly known as Twitter, at D for3G and at D for384. I'm also on YouTube, D for3, and on the NLSC, D for3.
As for me, I'm Andrew in the forum and Andrew NLSC on X. The NLSC is on X and Facebook at the NLSC. We're also NLSC Basketball on Instagram and Threads. On YouTube, we are at NBA Live Series Center. And of course, keep it locked to the NLSC itself, NBA-live.com, for everything we do for basketball video games. So, thank you once again for tuning in, and until next time, I'm Andrew.
And I'm Derek.
Go get buckets, everyone!